Actually, let's. Hmm. You know what? I will save the easiest to the last. The simplest to last. All right. Now we're looking at Bill's Bildungsroman murder in Sanatorium. It's a mystery piece, supposedly. Let me switch back. Oops. Whew, now I talk with my normal voice. It would sound kind of strange if I continue talking in city voice for this one. Uh, mm, Stretch a bit before I start. I try to read all visual novels with my voice acting practice as my voice acting practice, which is pretty fun. But I do need quite a bit of energy before I can do it, so it has to be a morning session. All right, now presenting the mystery visual novel, The Murder in Sanatorium, which I cannot say the original German name, sorry. For the first time since my stay here, I did not expect I would take it. I would wake up in my bed. Oh, nice. As I stuffed the thermometer in my mouth and slid open the curtains, allowing the newly formed fleas like snow glare into my room. Oh, this is really nice writing. I try to remember my discontinuous existence of the previous night. I don't know I'm a girl or a boy. What happened last night? I could barely recall the what per the dance party. Excuse me, I can't speak Chinese. I can't speak German. Sorry. What I almost forgot was my lighting of the fireplace, my swelling of the wine, and my running down of the labyrinth. My 1,000-year-long journeys through hell, heaven, and back. Each step undoing the memories created by the previous. Oh, this person is like immortal? Nice. Each leap conjuring a brand new tier of the afterlife on top of the recently demolished layer. And yet, there was at least one sensation which I could recall clear as day. One which sent both a major flush up to my face and a sudden shiver down through my spine. Oh no. Augustine? Augustine? Am I a guy? Oh crap. Emilia might actually kill me this time. Oh, fairy priestess, I have returned. Alright, Augustine is a guy, right? So let me practice my deep voice, I suppose. I shouted once more. None of us were fully aware of the truth or dare game we played. Yet I could still recall the warm kiss on my cheek by Princess Anastasia Constantina. As I continued to wash all the evidence off my face, there was a knock on my door. Ah, Sister Justin. I waved back to her. But the usually kind and overworked Sister Justin was not in the mood for greetings. She opened her mouth, paused to let herself collect her thoughts, then spoke. Sister Justine, if you don't mind, we could really use your help. There had been an incident in her Professor Leon Kaufman's office. An incident? When an accident, we're not sure. He wasn't in bed when we looked into his bedroom this morning. We then went to his office, but his door was locked. We tried to knock or call out to him, but there was no answer. This most definitely was a concern. But why chose me? I started staying here only a couple days ago. There are other patients closer to Herr Kaufman who are better suited to helping him. Because we are expecting the worst, and you have the least emotional attachment to him. The worst? You know what I mean. Please come. I follow Sister Justin up the steps to the next floor above, floor 4. This floor suited one room, Leon Kaufman's rotunda office. I'm trying. Some of these words I'm not used to saying it. The entrance to his room began as the steps meet his locked door. Dr. Adenar was crouching by the door. Meanwhile, another nurse, Sister Juliet, Sister Justin's twin, was leaning over on the railing. Using twins, perfect twins, okay. Her fingers balancing her cigarette, her lungs filling the stairwell with her stress relief. That's a nice way to put it, for someone smoking. Good morning, Herr Doctor. I call out to the white coat kneeling beside the door. He turned to look at me. Good morning, old chap. Old chap. How's your rest so far? Going smoothly, I hope. Sorry, there's been a hiccup like this along the way, but you'll get over it soon enough. After all, this is a sanatorium, and the horizontals here have already gotten used to the occasional departures. Departures? That's right, departures. Sister Justin told me you are expecting the worst. Well, we're not wishing any ill will towards him or any patients here, really, no, not at all. It's just what we should expect in a place like this. But there could be other reasons for his unresponsiveness. It's possible the poor chum had a little too much to drink from the party last night. The worst case is, well, he's 70 years old. Might have been old age or a heart attack. Not consumption? If it was consumption, I would have noticed the sign during his last checkup. But he looked as healthy as a horse. An old whining racehorse, that is. But I didn't call for you to determine if our old friend is alive, no. That's the doctor's task. I was wondering if you somehow have something, or at least could do or suggest something to help us unlock this door. After all, you look cunning enough for a lad. Okay. Ignoring the compliment, I leaned and peered through the keyhole. Without hesitation, the doctor continued. Strangely enough, none of the nurses here had a key to this room. Only our herb professor has the key, so there's no easy way of getting in. I know, that's not what I'm concerned with. I looked through the hole and saw a good portion of the room. Most of the rotunda walls were covered with tall windows which could slide open vertically, letting the newly fallen snow shine the entire office. However, that wasn't what interested me. Out of the rightmost corner of the keyhole, I saw a large desk supporting a dark figure, the slouched-over professor. I could only assume he was facing down, or I could see the tip of his balding, white forehead, as well as his fingertips dangling off the front of his desk. Oh, that's not a good picture. I stood up. You might be right, Herr Doctor. Either he's very drunk, unconscious, or in the worst case scenario has suffered a heart attack. Then I told him my proposition. I suggest you break the door down. The doctor scratched the back of his head. Is there any other way aside from damaging property? I shook my head. If he's not dead, we should act as fast as possible. Get someone or something to break the door. This is my suggestion. The doctor nodded and turned to Sister Juliet. Sister Juliet. The doctor snapped the cold nurse out of her trance. Go get a little Frederick. One instant from the chatlet. Titch. Sister Julia, with a roll of her eyes, stepped sluggishly down the stairs. And I don't want to see you slacking off, you hear? Excuse me for a second. As their steps pattered down, another pair of steps scrambled up. It was Emilia Balsamo and Princess Anastasia Constantia von Lemberg. Huh? Is that how you say that last name? The little Russian was a student of Herr Kaufmann. They likely noticed Dr. Adenio's panicked voice coming from Leon Kaufmann's office. What happened? Augustin? What happened? Is Dr. Kaufmann all right? Good morning, Princess Anastasia. Can I just skip the rest? Constantina and Emilia. I don't know how to break this to you two, but Dr. Adenio, and I believe there is something wrong with Herr Kaufmann. Either he's drunk or he had a heart attack. She shook her head in response, frozen realization in her eyes. I do not believe he's drunk. He told me he quit drinking 5 months ago. She ran to the door and banged and called out his name. Professor Kaufmann! Professor Kaufmann, it's me! Professor, it's me! Your most prized student, Anastasia! Please tell me you're okay! Just then, Emilia capped the panicked noble woman's mouth as she dragged her away from the door, both struggling in the process. Emilia turned to us with an awkward smile. My apologies. Emilia whispered in a soothing voice to her friend. The little Russian then took a breath and turned to Sister Justin and me. I'm truly sorry for my disturbance. As a noble woman, my actions were improper. She stared at the ground for a while. May transform again, oh well, yeah. Back. Then she continued. I feel like this mystery will work better with my normal form. I don't know which is my original form anymore. Wait, why am I a Pikachu? You choose. You can change back if you wish. We have added Pokemon at the request of viewers. Yes, we have Pokemon now. You can choose to go back to a Blockman, or a Goose, or Kirby. Professor Kaufmann was one of the few friends who saved my life. He was so full of life too, despite his age. I would never have expected anything like that to come so soon. No, I will stick with Lightning Mouse. If assuming, of course, what happened has happened. Like how Emilia and Princess Anastasia heard Doctor and then was yelling. 3 other patients dashed up the steps after they heard Princess Anastasia's shouting. These 3 were Cecil Smith, Joseph Patterson Roosevelt, and Ceiling Ripe-Eye Rollies. I don't know if I say this name correctly. Cecil too was Hearst Hoofman's student. What happened? It's Professor Kumel, right? Oxton, what are you doing here? Yeah, what's going on? Good morning, Cecil. Good morning, Joseph. Hello, Celine. I don't know how to say this. But I think there's something wrong with Herb Kaufman. You know, Kaufman is one of my friend's last names, so it feels kind of strange. I keep imagining him as a professor. Oh boy. And like what the little princess did, Cecil too called out the professor's name and banged the door. Professor Kaufman, are you alright? It's me, Cecil. Suddenly, Dr. Adam North shoved past us. He pushed Cecil away from the door and slapped him hard across the side of his face. Oh, what the? Be a man and behave yourself. Just then, Princess Anastasia rushed to Cecil's side. Cecil, are you okay? She gently rubbed his cheek, calming him down. Yeah, I'm alright, thank you, Anastasia. Meanwhile, the doctor continued his scolding. I did not expect everybody here. It is apparent no patient in the sanatorium behaves in a dignified manner. However, I believe every one of you still have at least some sort of human dignity left in your noggin. Once we break open this door, whatever happens, I want each and every one of you to promise me that you will be calm. Oh look, here comes a little Frederick. Frederick finally appeared with his childlike smile next to Sister Juliet. He barely seemed aware of his chaotic situation. Despite his illness, he had a large blacksmith's build, so he looked strong enough to tear down almost anything. And that was what he did. Everyone stand back! Okay, little Frederick, I want you to wrap your right hand around this knob here. Good! Now, on the count of 3, pull your right arm back as hard as you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3! With great strength and little issue, he pulled out the doorknob, along with screws and splinters. Afterwards, we stepped around the remains of the door, slowly filled into the room, and yet we all failed our promises. From what we saw was a scene we also failed to expect. There was stillness, not the stillness of a breathing, unconscious person, but of a clearly breathless, indifferent object. An object whose late intellect had taught us last week about the immortalities of past martyrs and present consumptives. But I did not think he would expect to die being immortalized like this, for his death was caused not by a heart attack or his disease, but by murder. With his body slumped over his desk, I could see the handle of the dagger jolting out from his back. Oops, back. Oh. Ah! Well, that's a practice. Sorry, I snapped out. I don't know how to do screaming very well. Oh, add the dictator is here. Mm, I mean, attention dictator is coming up in 4 minutes. Emilia comforted Noble's woman and there let her sit down on a chair in a room. The room itself was shaped like a rotunda, with furnishings expected of a respectable philosopher. History and mathematics books and East Asian and Egyptian artifacts littered the shelves. More piles of books were stacked at a grabbing distance from each side of the intellectual's leather desk chair. The chair itself having a lovely worn-out short backrest. I gently approached the body as I peered out the window behind him. The window revealed the steep, snow-covered Sanatorium rooftop. Without realizing, I stepped onto something fragile. My foot cracked the remain of a broken teacup. I then tried to balance myself on the windowsill as I removed the ceramic pieces from my toe. Ooh. My palm touched something wet. I pulled my hand away. I stepped back and tried to process his body from head to toe. With the professor's body having slumped on his desk, and with the leather throne having stood in front of the westernmost rotunda, the room lent itself a particular light. Instead of a murder of an intellectual, it was the death of a king. The decadence of a nation. The burning of a library. What? But just as I was only able to process half of what was in front of me, I heard a voice muttering from the center of the room. Leave. What? I said, get out! Scram, all of you! Instead of shock, Dr. Anuran was furious, his face reddening. Get out! Leave! Everyone go take your breakfast. And you, what are you doing? Close the window and take your notes elsewhere. Celine let the window slam down and place her notepads away. With silence, everybody started to leave. But just as I turned away, Doctor tapped me on the shoulder. Except for you, and you, little Frederick, you too. I need both of you to carry his body down to the morgue. Also, Sister Julie and Sister Justin, can you both pick up the stretcher from the basement? Thank you. What happened between then and breakfast was a blur. I was still processing my realization that a human had murdered one of the Sanatorium's most respectable patients. What I could recall was that both Frederick and I avoiding touching the dagger while placing his body face down on the gurney. It was a chore getting his body down. Neither Dr. Anur or Sister Julia knew how to operate the elevators. Because Frederick was much taller than me, I also had to plan every step he and I took. Both the shock of the murder and the carrying of the body were mentally taxing. I was sure I made some dents in the staircase walls. Once I arrived in the cafeteria, Sister Justin and Celio, I can't say this name. The Cecile were still preparing for the breakfast. Damn it! Unlike Princess Anastasia, Cecile let out his emotions long after he saw his mentor's body. I sat at my assigned table with Celine, Joseph, and Frederick. The next table over sat Princess Anastasia and Emilia, with Emilia grasping the princess's hand to console her. Attention dictator is here. Life. Let me just run it quickly. Okay, back. One day I will have a fun film scene for just this moment. The outbreak. Still waiting on a. Still have to find the voice actors first. Anyway, Cecile and Professor Kaufman were also supposed to sit at their table. The professor's absence stared back at us, at all of us. It was hard not to notice. After a while, Cecile appeared out of the kitchen with a sign of forced indifference and a cart full of breakfast. Hey, Joseph, this is what you ordered, right? A cheese omelette with ketchup on the side? Joseph took a deep breath. He was concentrated on a broken toy passenger train in his hands. Yeah, that's fine. Cecile placed the dish in front of him. And for you, Celine. Sorry that your toast ended up a bit burnt. Is this alright? Cecile looked up from her notepad. Uh-huh. That looked fine to me. Cecile placed the dish in front of her. He then eventually placed the rest of our dish in front of all of us. A heavy silence filled the room. Most of us picked at our food except for little Frederick, Cecile, and Princess Anastasia. Frederick, realizing nobody was in the mood to remind him about his table manners, started digging in. Cecile and Princess Anastasia, meanwhile, were left staring at their dishes. Anastasia, please, you need to eat. I'll be happy even if you start taking small bites. The little Russian glanced at Emilia, then at her food, then took a bite and chewed slowly. Shy grins grew on each other's faces as they continued grasping each other's hand in comfort. After breakfast, Doctor and the Eden Norn gathered everybody in the lobby. The doctor seemed to have calmed down, but judging by his face, his calmness wasn't a good sign either. He began with a shaky voice. Thank you for meeting today. As you might have seen, our distinguished guest is no longer with us. I'm not done with my autopsy yet, but I'm confident he was murdered. However, he hesitated, coughed, and continued. However, I do not wish to alarm everybody. As you may have suspected, it is possible that one of us have murdered Professor Kaufman. It's a closed case. Although for some reason I prefer not to believe it. But I could not rule out the possibility of one of us is a murderer. I also could not rule out the possibility that there will be any further murders. Further murders? Well, if that's the case, then there shouldn't be any worry, right? We might as well just call the police right now and have them take care of everything. The doctor dabbed away his sweat. Well, that's the issue. If we can get contact with the police. And I mean if. What do you mean if? Call them right now. The phone lines were cut. The telegraph lines too. Joseph gave off a chuckle, and then his expression blackened. The doctor was serious. Dr. Adenor swallowed and turned to the windows. There are 120 centimeters of snow outside. Because the phone lines were cut, we are all snowed in, and it would take miles to reach the closest town. I say the best we can do is wait. And wait. And wait on while the possibility of a serial murder looms behind our backs. I shivered. I heard murmurs around me. But the doctor cleared his throat, forcing a smile, showing his nervous optimism. But that's only the worst case scenario. Perhaps the murderers might not be any of us. Perhaps the murderer wished to delay any reporting of Leon's murder until snow has melted. That's why he cut the phone lines. But as he had killed her professor and escaped before the snowstorm began at 8:30 p.m. last night, and I most definitely prefer this reason. However, he let go of his smile. I have the responsibility of ensuring everybody's safety. Therefore, I'm not allowed to let myself off the possibility that one of us is the culprit. But enough of that. What's important is I need everybody to listen and follow my instructions. Afterwards, the doctor launched into an explanation as to what was going to happen. First off, I wish to have everybody know that we have a sled. Joseph's eye lit up. So we have a way to escape. Yes, we do, but how should I put it? Sister Julia, you're the only person to have ridden the sled, right? How big is it? Sister Julia blinked. For your information, I did not write it. The sled is for transporting dead bodies only. Wait, what? Bodies? You meant to say use the sled to transport bodies? Yo. Hey, Alucard, welcome back to the treehouse. Good to see you again. I'm doing Feedback Fest game featuring right now, and I'm gonna do some feedbacks as well. Been busy. How have you been? I'm doing good right now. I'm doing a special feature. Currently doing 2 visual novels first, The Sweet Science and The Murder at Sanatorium, with a very freaking long name. What's in German? What is it? Bildungsroman? Yeah. Feeling good. Good energy. That's why I can do this. Yep. So apparently, to catch up on the story, the Professor Herb Kaufman, who shared the same last name as one of my college classmates, who I still kind of talk to on Facebook, is have been murdered. I'm sorry, Kaufman. Only when there's snow outside. Go Austin only if the morgue is full. Hey, don't look at me like that. Listen, it's not as if a body could ever complain. Wow, since when did none started becoming so cynical? Just then, Sister Justin broke into the conversation. Twin sisters. Sister Julia, that's enough. You should not have made our newest guest worry. Desk. But wait. If that sled is used to transfer bodies. Sister Julia, how many bodies can one fit onto that sled? Sister Julia narrowed her eyes at my question. I was getting around to that. One body per sled. What? Just one? Why are you surprised? So far, we were forced to use that sled only once. I mean, yes, but that means we only have one sled. Only one. For one person. Dr. Anor scratched his scalp. Yes. Now you see our little problem here. There's only one sled in one of the basement's storage rooms. And this sled is suitable for one person. The one person gets to escape this trap. Joseph tilted his head. But there shouldn't be an issue if we only have one sled and one person uses it, right? Why not nominate whoever is the least suspicious to leave and get in touch with the police? And what if we, by accident, elect the murderer? Then we, oh. Dr. Anor nodded and dabbed the sweat off his face. So that was it. Dr. Anor wanted to prevent the murderer from fleeing. Sister Julia, Sister Justin. You have the only keys to the hallway which leads to the shed's storage room. Yes? Yeah, what do you need it for? Would you please be so kind as to lend those keys to me? Thank you. What, Doctor, you so sus. He pocketed the keys in his trousers and turned to everybody else. I forbid the usage of the sled, and I do not wish to have the murderer escape. Until the snow has melted, we all shall stay put. Just then, Cecile stepped in front of the doctor. But that's ridiculous. You are putting all of us in danger. Are you just going to let more of us die? But the doctor did not budge. I'm not willing to listen to any more vexatious questions. I can't say. Either you follow my instructions or I will withhold your upcoming treatment. Despite his height, Cecile shrank from the doctor's threat. Now that I have the only keys to the sled, I can showcase what I was able to find from my autopsy so far. Actually, the doctor is kind of treating everybody, and why would a doctor kill the body with a knife, right? Doctors have so many tools to kill the person with. Why? There's no need for a doctor to use anything that is so brutal. Judging by my amateur estimate, I can conclude that her Professor Kaufman departed last night around 8 p.m., give or take 1 hour. Therefore, any time between 7 and 9 p.m. may possibly be the professor's time of departure. Now, as you people are aware, the snowstorm began 8:30 p.m. Which means her improvement departed while... Blah! German name! Walper... Peace... Not... Party was still going on. I can't continue my acting when I run into a name like that. Now, I know the party began at 6 p.m. However, I left to do some work in my office around 7 p.m. Thus, it would be a great pleasure for me if one of you could give a brief overview as to what happened in the party after I left. Emilia signed and raised her hand. I can give an overview, Her Doctor. I was the most sober patient during the party. I had only 2 sips of wine. I also stayed in the music salon the entire time. Celine, Anastasia, Joseph, and Austin can vouch for me. What? Wait, I can? But Emilia was right. At the moment, my memories of the party started clicking together, forming a narrative. I finally remembered Celine's chemicals. I finally remembered that Amelia, Princess Anastasia, Celine, Joseph, and I were all together drinking wine, playing Truth or Dare, and taking said chemicals. I finally remembered Joseph deciding to play the piano as I felt Princess Anastasia's kiss on my cheek. I don't trust you, Amelia. After all, weren't you the one who went so far gone as to confess that you love Princess Anastasia more than Mary, Queen of Scots? I do not recall such a thing, Celine. And I do not believe a yellow journalist will ever report their memories in an accurate manner either. Liar. I almost definitely remember that singing. The nuns had to force Emilia's cup out of her hand after she went deep into her opinions on Catholic and Eastern Orthodox theology. Emilia was calling for the merging of the 2 churches. Very well, but once I started seeing major holes in your testimony, I will suspect you. Thank you, Her Doctor. Now let me express what I believe happened last night. You then face the rest of us. If any of you disagree with what I witnessed, please correct me. First off, the party, I'm gonna skip this long name. Oof, I just call it war party, I guess. War party began at 6 p.m. right after we had dinner. Is that right, Sister Justin and Cecile? Huh? But why are you asking me? That's because you and Sister Justin prepared dinner last night. No, I most definitely remember it was your cooking. No wonder you are the breadwinner of your family. Hey, my family loves my food. How could they love me if they hate what I cook? Unless you count setting the dishes and cleaning the pots as cooking. I fail to see how any particular way you can be chef. Okay, well, I had an off day yesterday, but tell me it's a holiday today, and I will try my best to fix up the feast. So, yesterday was It was a holiday. Grr. Yeah, he did burn their toast earlier. But thank you for letting me know all that. At least I was able to determine that you and Sister Justin cooked yesterday's dinner. Why are you treating me as if I was hiding information? Anyway, moving on. You still have to try to find a voice for it. Now the party last night, I know for a fact that it started at 6 p.m. sharp. I know that within the first hour, all of us started drinking, but not little Frederick and Herr Kaufman. In fact, I believe little Frederick was the first patient to leave the party. Is that right, Sister Justin? And am I correct, little Frederick? Little Frederick was confused. With confused eyes, glanced at Sister Justin, motioning her to give the answer instead. Yes, little Frederick left the party early. He asked if he could go play with the train set in the basement. I said yes, and he ran off. Did you follow him to see if he went to the basement? Why would I? I believe he knows his way down there. That's not what I mean. I'm only wondering if you kept eyes on him while he was down there. Oh, well, I did, but that was right after the party was over. Sister Julia and I left the party early and stayed in the library for the most of the night. After the party was over, we both found him sleeping on the ground, his body crushing his toy. And what was that toy? Oh, it was just his model passenger train. Mr. Roosevelt, did you find enough parts for the train? Joseph snapped himself out of his trance. Huh? Oh yeah. I haven't started fixing his train yet. I'll let you know if I need anything. I glanced at little Frederick to see if he has anything else to say. Oops. Let's see. Yeah, I can get it to a nice size. There we go. But he continued his staring off into space, lost in his daydream. He was not familiar with our words. Ah, good to know. Now then, what happened after you met with little Frederick? Well, I tried pulling him up, but I strained my shoulder. While he was asleep? Yes, that was a mistake I made. Sister Julia ended up waking him up. I wonder how Sister Julia came up with that solution. There was no secret. I went to the ground floor to fetch a pail of water. I threw the water on his face. We scrambled little Frederick back to his outlet and locked his door. And when we get back to the Sanatorium, the clock says 1:20 a.m. So it was that late. Yes. By the way, the Chatlet, if you don't know, was a Swiss cottage which neighbored the Sanatorium, built as a solution to prevent Frederick from escaping. After Frederick heard the death of his parents, he made many attempts to escape until his family gave the Sanatorium money to build a cage for him as a Swiss Chatlet. Oh God. Thought I should mention this impromptu. Then the doctor interrupted. Though little Frederick was unsupervised for more than 6 hours. That's the most definitely suspicious. But in the meantime, I ignored the doctor and moved on. Now let's continue. The second person who left the party was Herr Professor Kaufman himself. I believe Herr Kaufman left around 6:30. Correct. He told me he wanted to continue a paper he had been writing recently. And after the professor left, Dr. Enner left party 30 minutes later. Yes, I left around 7 p.m. I had some paperwork to attend to. Did you have anything more to say, Herr Doctor? No, nothing. Carry on with your testimony. Thank you, Herr Doctor. Anyway, let us go back to when each person left the room. If I recall correctly, the third person to leave the room was Cecile. He left only for a while. I believe that Cecile left the room and returned 20 minutes later with firewood. Is that right, Cecile? What? What's wrong with me picking firewood? There's nothing wrong with that. I just wish to verify my memory is correct. Yeah. Well, yeah, so what? Dr. Enel asked Sister Justin to remind Sister Julia to pick some firewood, and Sister Julia instead asked me to go pick them. As to where I gotten them from, there was a pile of wood near the tool shed. Once I arrived there, I placed the wood in the fireplace, and you guys here all lit it up. Actually, I remember it was Augustin who lit up the fireplace. Augustin, is my memory correct? Oh yeah. Joseph suggested I do the honors of lighting it up since yesterday was my first holiday spent in the Sanatorium. But hold on, there was something I had noticed that was strange. Before I lit the fireplace up, Cecile noticed there was snow in it. Sister Julie and Sister Justin then argued with each other over whether it was possible for snow or rain to fall into the chimney, especially if one is covered with a chimney cap. Oh, chimney cap. It was then Joseph suggested I should ignore the nurses and light the fireplace up. Thank you, Augustine. Yes, I do remember that commotion as well. And as to what I think about the chimney in the music salon, Anastasia, do you remember if you saw a chimney cap during your lectures at the professor's office? After all, his office does give a great view of the roof. Princess Anastasia pondered over the question. Then she lit up. I think so. I believe the chimneys here all have caps. But you can only see the music salon's chimney if you look up from the window behind the professor's desk. But it was not something I saw during every lecture. I believe Cecile also agreed with me. Right, Cecile? Huh? Oh, right. I remember there was a chimney cap. It was not something I could have paid any attention to, but I do remember something like that on the music salon's chimney. Thank you, Anastasia and Cecile. I will keep that as a note. Now, moving on. She turned to Dr. Enu. This means that once again, once Augustine lit up the fireplace, Anastasia, Augustine, Cecile, Joseph, Sister Justine, Sister Julia, and I will all gather around in front of it. So, Dr. Enu, does this help confirm our alibis during this time? The doctor scratched his head. Then, narrowing his eyes, he spoke with an irritated throat. I cannot accept this. Cecile was gone from the room for 20 minutes. She was gone from 7 to 7:20 p.m. Her Professor Kaufman could have departed between 7 and 9 p.m. So what do you have to say for yourself, Cecile? I told you already I was gathering wood from the fireplace. Even then, this blank span of time suggests you as the most suspicious individual here. But let us continue and see if we can find a better suspect. But carry on, Miss Balsamo. I said carry on. My apologies, Herr Doctor. I was still pondering over what Cecile just said. Anyway, the next two people who left the party were the twin nurses, Sister Justin and Sister Juliet. May you two correct me? Yes, that is correct. Sister Juliet and I left the room. We were trying to avoid getting drunk. What Sister Justin said was half true. I was bored of your games, so we went to the library and played Go Fish. And neither of you left the library for the rest of the night? Yes, ma'am, that's right. Yeah, that seems correct. Are you sure? What do you mean, why would I not be sure? Because Sister Justin said she left the library with you after the party is over. Sister Julia cracked her tongue. You already know what I mean. Neither Sister Justin or I stayed in the library during the entirety of the night. What I really mean is that we stayed in the library for the rest of the party. And after the party, you woke little Frederick up and sent him directly home, yes? To the chatler, where else? Again, we also locked his door. Again, when we got back to the Sanatorium, the clock says 1:20 p.m. a.m. Do you need me to repeat anything else, Madame Balsamo? May I suggest that you have some Earl Grey tea so that the caffeine could help you memorize my words better? Woohoo! Jab. If you weren't annoyed by my repeated questions, I would say please do. But personally, I believe you need the tea more than I do. Perhaps you could have iced it. You could have it iced so you can cool yourself down. Yes! But anyway, moving on. Oh. Yeah, big exchanges there. After the nurses left, the rest of us, Oxton, Augustine, Anastasia, Celine, Joseph, Cecile, and I continued partying. We were all playing the truth or dare. Hold on, Emilia. Can't we do something else beforehand? Like drinking wine and taking chemicals? Yes, how could I forget that? They're taking chemicals. A-E-R-U-G? E-R-U-G? Yeah. The next person to leave the party was Cecile. That's not what I said. Cecile faced all of us. He signed. He probably realized he was the most suspicious person here. How could he not be? He pondered how to carefully say his words and took a deep breath. You might not believe me, but the reason I left the party was because I was struck with inspiration. I injected some of Sterling's cocaine, and this gave me the motivation to wrap up my epic poem. Just then, the doctor butted in. Of course, one of our patients here has the drug mania. No motivation is needed for murder in that case. Wait, I can explain. The rest of the party goers also took the chemicals. Augustine, Anastasia, Celine, Joseph, Emilia, they all did too. I just participated in the fun. What is that fun? I don't get it. Emilia glanced at Celine. Celine returned the look and nodded in agreement. Cecile's lying. I was wide awake. Aside from the wine, none of us here took any chemicals from Celine. Cecile personally requested a bottle from Celine. Yeah, and I can vouch for that. Cecile did ask for a bottle from me. What? Cecile's mouth went dry. Oh, this is getting a little intense. Anastasia, I remember, right? I wasn't the only patient who took chemicals, right? Princess Anastasia stopped hard, rolling soles of her feet like a fidgety child. With all due respect, Cecile, I was hardly aware of my senses. Perhaps I was long gone before the drinking. I'm not sure if you were the only patient who took Cecile's chemical or not. Please forgive me, Cecile. Cecile then turned to me. Augustine, you remember, right? You agree with me that I wasn't the only one who took the chemicals, right? Please remember. I felt Emilia's eye glaring straight at me. For some reason, I understood. You're framing him. Emilia was trying to convince Dr. and Neil that her testimony was the most accurate. If she had taken Ceciline's chemicals, this might have meant losing the doctor's trust in the testimony's accuracy. But why lie, Emilia? Why did you volunteer to give your testimony in the first place? Could there be an alternative motive behind you giving your testimony? Yes, for some reason I ended up trusting her. Sorry, Cecile, I think you were the only one who took the Celine's chemicals. Cecile let his head drop. He stared at his hands. So that's it then, right? I understand. You guys must be right. I must be misremembering things. He faced the doctor. Yes, her doctor was the only patient who took the chemicals. But please believe me, I do not have a drug mania. I just needed some inspiration to finish my poem, that's all. How could I find the time and mood to write if I committed a murder beforehand? Doctor and nurse scratched his chin. I believe you made a good point. However, it's not enough to convince me. Oh really? That's it then? Is there any way for me to convince you that I'm not the murderer? How about I tell you who I suspect? Will that help? That will not reduce my suspicion on you. But please convince me. Well, in that case, the person I suspect the most murdering her Kaufman is. Cecile flailed his right arm as he pointed his finger at. You! Me? Yes, you. Don't pretend you didn't see me. You, Augustine, I'm talking to you. Why have you been quiet for most of the time? I know Anastasia for a long while, and I know Emilia through her. I know Celine through Emilia for a couple of months now, and I know Joseph through Frederick a while ago. But you, Augustine, I'm sure as hell do not know anything about you. None of us do. Which is why I suspect you. Sister Augustine stood in front and faced Cecile. Cecile? That's no way to treat a new patient. He might tell you more about himself if you let him. Well, that makes him even more suspicious. He's a newcomer with no friends here. A stranger with no attachment to us. Perhaps he came here to kill Herr Hoofman. Perhaps he came here to kill all of us. That is enough. Oh, switch voice. That is enough. It was Princess Anastasia. Mr. Cecil rose miss. Suspecting someone of murder just because he's quiet is truly a despicable accusation. I'll never forgive the people who condemn Papa just because. Because my mother. Cecil backed away from me and approached the silverling Russian. I'm sorry for reminding me of your father. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my groundless judgment. He turned to me. Sorry, Augustine, I got carried away here. In all honesty, I don't think of you as a bad kid. Hopefully you can forgive me. He patted me on the back. What? That turned fast? I returned his smile back. No worries, Cecil. But the truth is I was very worried. The reason why I avoided talking about myself was that I was afraid they might uncover my past. Uncover who I really was as a person. I wanted to leave France and Algeria. I wanted to leave my family and hometown. I could consider my tuberculosis a blessing in this regard, which was why I felt hesitant in confessing to everybody even after a murder. I would rather die than to go through all of that again. Thank you, Cecile, for your very valuable insight of Augustine. I'm sure this will be very helpful in the near future. Anyway, let us continue, everyone. From 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. after Cecile left the music salon to work on his poem, the rest of us, that is, Anastasia, Celine, Augustine, Joseph, and I all were left in the party. I believe we were all in our room by 1 a.m. Is that right, everyone? Each of us remaining partygoers pondered over her question for a bit. Yeah, no qualms with that. I wasn't sober, but it did feel like 1 a.m. at least. I agree with Celine. I think I tucked myself in by 1 a.m. I don't see anything wrong with that. I guess I started snoozing way before then. And Austin, what about you? I'm not sure, but it sounds about right. Seems like the rest of the party goer and I agreed. We all returned to our room by 1 a.m. in the previous night. And as you know, after that, the nurses left the library to wake little Frederick up and send him home. The nurses arrived back at the Sanatorium at 1:20 a.m. And I believe her doctor that was the end of the party last night. As for me, I was in my bedroom a little before 3 a.m. So is that all, Miss Balsamo? Yes, that was all I can remember, her doctor. Should I wrap all the testimony up and start from the beginning of the party last night? Go ahead, her doctor. All right. And so her doctor Adenauer recited what he believed happened during the party last night. 6 p.m. Party began. With the first hour, all the patients and staff started drinking except for Professor Hoofman and little Frederick. Little Frederick was bored, so he asked Sister Justine if he could go ahead and play with the train set in the basement. Sister Justine agreed, and he ran off. Dr. Adenauer chatted with Dr. Hoofman for a while. 6:30, Dr. Hoofman left his office to work on his paper. 7 p.m. Earliest possible time for Dr. Hoofman to be murdered. Dr. Adenauer left for his office to work on some paperwork. Before leaving, Doctor reminded the Sister Justine to tell someone to help gather the firewood and start the fire in the fireplace. Sister Justine asked Sister Juliet to start gathering the firewood. Sister Juliet asked Cecile to go outside and gather the firewood from the shed. Cecile did just that. Cecile came back with the firewood at 7:20. When Cecile went to the fireplace, he noticed there was some snow in it. He asked where it came from. Sister Juliet said somehow snow had fallen in. But Sister Justin said that's not possible. She never saw any snow or rain fall into the chimney. They both argued whether the snow could have fallen in the chimney had a cap over it. Wait. If the chimney had a cap over it. That is so sus. Joseph then suggested that Augustin was spending his first holiday here in Sanatorium. He should do the honors of lighting the fireplace up. And thus, Augustin lighted up the fireplace with a match. Soon the nurses realizing how tipsy they were, and realizing that they should instead leave the party to avoid getting drunk, then escape into the library and play goldfish. Cecile took the chemicals from Celine. He left for his bedroom to work on his epic poem. 5 patients were then left in the party: Anastasia, Celine, Emilia, Augustin, and Joseph. 9 p.m. Latest possible time for Professor Kaufman to be murdered. Remaining partygoers all in the room by then. The party ended. When nurses realized the party was empty, decided to meet with little Frederick, who was sleeping on the ground with a model train crushed under his back. Sister Justin then tried to drag him up, almost straining her shoulder. Julia poured water on him to wake him up, and they were all able to send him to the cab to Charlotte. Nurses arrived back at the Sanatorium at 1:20 a.m. 3 a.m. Doctor went back to his bedroom. Man, who is the most sus in this one? No, after going through everybody's testimony, you can count out with 2 suspects. Little Frederick, you were absent from the party in its entirety, and you were escorted out of the Sanatorium after the party, which ended at 1 a.m. You had ample time to meet with Herr Kaufman alone. But I do not have time for dilly-dallying. You are going to say that it is not possible since his mind's like a little boy, right? And his heart too, Herr Doctor. He doesn't have the heart to hurt anyone. Is that so? But what about all the pets he had? Didn't he end up killing all of them? How could you say that? He didn't mean to crush them? Just like he didn't mean to crush the toy train last night. Little Frederick, please say something. You are being accused of murder. Uh-oh. Sister Justin hit her face while Sister Juliet comforted her. Well, what are you doing, Frederick? Say something. Your silence is hurting Sister Justin. Little Frederick then faced Dr. Anur with a slightly confused smile. He didn't seem he knew what was going on. He seemed to realize he was not a bystander at this game everybody else was playing, and this was serious. Little Frederick, did you not kill Professor Leon Kaufman? Little Frederick paused for a while and glanced at Sister Justin and Sister Juliet. Then he returned to Dr. Anur for an answer. I didn't kill Professor Leon Kaufman. Professor Leon Kaufman. Little Frederick returned the name of the murder victim with a large smile on his face. Is that enough, Herr Doctor? Little Frederick is innocent. Please let him go. Dr. Anur scratched his head. I'm sorry, Sister Justin, I can't possibly let him go. I still suspect little Frederick, but he's not the only patient with no alibi. The other person I find equally suspicious is Cecile Rose-Smith. You were gone 2 times during the party. First time is between 7 p.m. and 7:20. That was when you were gathering firewood. Is that correct? And the second time is when you left the party after 8 p.m. Is that also correct? Mr. Smith? Cecile threw his hand up in the air. Heard you loud and clear, Herr Doctor. I knew whatever I say would not change your mind. I did not kill Herr Hoffman. I loved him like a father. Ask Anastasia. I know she believes in me. Princess Anastasia winked her nose. She took a breath and sighed. Well, I wouldn't say you loved him like a father. I almost certainly loved him like a father. I most definitely loved him like a father. You, however... Anastasia, please. I'm sorry, Cecile, but it's true. If he really is a father figure to you, then you must have had an uneasy childhood. Are you accusing me of killing my own father? It's an optional literary, not literal sense. A grin grew and disappeared on Princess Anastasia's face. He then faced Dr. Anur. Cecile might be weird, but he wouldn't betray his friends. He might have argued a lot with both his father and her professor, but he hates his father and loves Herr Kaufmann. He might be a revolutionary, but he also has a wife and 3 daughters. I wouldn't imagine a loving father such as himself take a life of another. I couldn't imagine a great friend such as himself to stab the mentor who introduced us to each other. Please, Doctor. Cecile Roller-Smith is an innocent man. I hope you could find in your heart to end your accusation of him being a murderer. Dr. Anur scratched and shook his head. I'm truly sorry, Princess Anastasia. Really, truly sorry. I cannot seem to let go of my suspicions of Cecile. But let me clarify myself, Princess Anastasia. I do not believe Cecile is a murderer. I do not believe Frederick is a murderer. I do believe, however, that we must start somewhere if we were to arrest this killer, so we must suspect everyone. And yet we can only arrest one person, for there will only be one murderer. What shall I do? What shall we all do? What now? Sister Juliet tapped her foot. She seemed tired of letting this meeting go on longer than it needed to. What do you mean, what now? You didn't think any further than this? Oh, I thought we would have figured out who the murderer is by the end. Didn't think we would have ended up with 2 equally suspicious individuals. But even then... Well, in that case, isn't it obvious, Herr Doctor? We should vote as in who we think the murderer is. Oh, no, I get that. I have prepared or had enough pieces of paper just in case we needed to vote for a suspect. But I didn't think we would be this certain when it comes to electing one suspect. My other issue is where we should jail the suspect. Dr. Anur took a look around the lobby with a troubled expression, hoping one of the patients here have an idea. Throw me to the police. Heck, throw both Frederick and me to the police. Might as well get it over with. But the Sanatorium's completely snowed in. We wouldn't be able to go to the police today. By the end, none of the patients had an idea. Instead, Sister Juliet stepped up with a solution. Oi, Frederick, do you mind leaving your house for a while? Little Frederick turned with a blank expression to Sister Juliet. Sister Juliet, what are you thinking? What am I thinking? I'm thinking about the best solution we have. Elect the suspect and lock him in the chaplet. After all, the chaplet doors can only be locked from on the outside. And the windows too, they are also covered in bars. The chaplet might as well be a holding cell. The killer wouldn't be able to move around if he's in it. Sister Juliet faced little Frederick again. Is that alright with you, Frederick? Oh, little Frederick. Sister Juliet is only suggesting that you lend your room to one of your friends for a little while. Think of this as helping others in need. The giant placed his face on his fist, deep in thought, then his eyes lit up. Does this mean I get to sleep in the Sanatorium again? Sister Justin probably realized what little Frederick was thinking. He had been locked away from sleeping in the Sanatorium for a long while now. Probably forget that staying in the chalet was little Frederick's punishment rather than his comfort. Yes, little Frederick. Because of your good behavior, you can finally stay at the Sanatorium. But only for a while, and only if you continue maintaining your best behavior. The giant giggled in excitement. Yay! I can finally sleep like a normal adult now. Don't celebrate yet. We're not sure whether you might be able to sleep in the Sanatorium again. Let's ask our good doctor first, shall we? But Dr. Eno was leaning back and nodding. He seemed satisfied that the jail cell problem was solved easily by the existence of little Frederick's chalet. Very well then. We shall elect the suspect and send him to the chalet. But in addition to Sister Julia's idea, I suggest another rule. We shall also choose another person to stay with the suspect as well. We should give the suspect a lookout to make sure he's not doing anything funny. I will choose the lookout randomly from the hat. And if we discover any additional murders, we can immediately host a vote on who might be the suspect and who will be the new lookout. Now, does this sound like a reasonable idea? Doctor, why randomly? Because if a murder is an accomplice who are working together, it will only be by chance and not choice for them to be with each other in the chat. The doctor then faced the rest of us. Well then, let's start the vote. But before we begin, let me recite the rules one last time. The two people seemingly didn't have alibis last night were Frederick and Cecile, according to the doctor. The doctor is sus, but the doctor suggests that everyone who vote determine whether the suspect will be sent to the chalet for the rest of the day and night. But the chalet only to be locked from the outside. Is there a bathroom there? And thus no one leaving the chalet could come out by themselves. In other words, the chalet will be used as a temporary holding cell for that day. The doctor also suggests having another person to keep the suspect in check. Warden. The other person could be randomly chosen, such if the murderer and the accomplice were working together, it would only be by chance for them to be with each other in the chalet. But just as they were about to begin the vote, a voice came over my shoulder. Excuse me, Her Doctor, my apologies for the interruption, but what goes through the effort of all this? Huh? Everyone turned to the voice. It was Emilia. It had been a while since she last spoke. Let me be clear. Why do we have to decide who the suspect is now? And why would we have to lock them up? Dr. Hills folded his arms. He didn't seem to like how a stoic daughter of a famous historian was interrupting him in her implicit, haughty manner. But he answered anyway. Because it wouldn't hurt holding little Frederick or Cecile and the watchman in a cell overnight. After all, if no murder happened over the coming night, then there will be a higher chance someone in the chalet was the murderer. If a murderer was committing in the Sanatorium, then the suspect were in the chalet, then suspects will be mostly freed of suspicion. But that still doesn't make sense. Why suspect Frederick and Cecile but not yourself? After all, according to you, you were by yourself in your office from 7 to 3 a.m. Also, according to you, her Professor Wolfman could have departed sometime between 7 to 9 p.m. Which by that logic means you also don't have an alibi, Her Doctor? Dr. Anor blinked and forced a smile again. Because that would be a waste of time. After all, I know I'm innocent. Did that answer everything, young lady? Not at all. You did not explain how the murder killed her Dr. Koopman in a locked room. A locked room? Yes, Her Doctor. I'm sure you believe that murderer committed a crime in a room where it would have been challenging for them to escape. And I'm not right, Herr Doctor? The doctor scratched his head. No, the doctor's super sass. Yes, I do believe his autopsy was strange, but yes, Herr Kaufman was most definitely killed in what you call a locked room. Oh, and how did you figure that out, Herr Doctor? Well, yes. You see, the only person to have the key to her professor's office was Herr Kaufman himself. And I found the key to the rotunda in his pocket because the key was on Herr Kaufman when he was murdered. The murderer killed him in a locked room. Now, did that answer everything you wish to know, young lady? Why does he have the key? My apologies, Herr Doctor. Now you made me more curious. Since we know the only key to this room was on the body itself, you need to explain how anyone could get into the room. Or rather, how could Frederick and Cecile get into the room? If no one could get in, then no one should be suspected right now. The doctor tried to force a smile. It was obvious he was trying to hold back his anger. I disagree. I see no reason to explain any of that. We can determine his magic tricks later when we, of course, capture the murderer himself. Our focus should be deciding on who to first suspect. Really, Herr Doctor? Well, in that case, I can't trust you. What? Because do not take my judgment personally. This is only my reasonable suspicion. After all, you are the person who said they found the key on the body. Well then, what if you were lying? What if instead you had knocked Herr Kaufman's door, met with him, killed him, left the office with his key, and locked the door? The doctor rubbed his head and snapped back. If you truly believe in your nonsense, know that your vote will be a waste of a perfectly good opportunity because I'm truly innocent. There should be no harm in suspecting little Frederick or Cecile. You're trying to offset it. The suspect is only staying in the chalet for a short while. You go then. If a murder happened while the suspect was locked away, I can safely believe in the suspect's innocence. If there's any harm using my idea, young lady, excuse me. Sneeze coming up. Not at all, Herr Doctor. Then let's not waste my time and begin the vote. And thus everybody started writing down their own name and their vote on the same slip of paper. Why do you want to write down your name? But I was not sure who to vote for. The doctor suggested two options, Frederick and Cecile. For the past couple of days I became acquainted with them both, and to be perfectly honest, I just could not picture either of them committing murder. Frederick was obvious. He had the heart and brain of a 6-year-old. Capacity for him to ever kill with intention would have been improbable, if not impossible. In addition, Amelia said the murder was in a locked room. Could someone like Frederick ever murder someone, let alone in a locked room? But wait, there was the fact that Frederick was great with puzzles and games. Let alone in a clever way. Oops. Despite his large build, Joseph told me he was well known as a hide-and-seek champion. He might have known his way around the Sanatorium through his hobbies. Then there were Cecile. Sure, he was a communist, but very rarely did he ever show any hatred towards the patients here. Especially Dr. Leon Kaufman, who he became one of the philosopher's favorite students. And Princess Anastasia, who he bonded not just through their discussion of Professor's lecture, but also through their taste in Lord Byron's and Alexander Pushkin's poems. There's no way a revolutionary could commit murder, at least not like this. Crap. Were these two the best suspects so far? Emilia was right. We are electing suspects for no reason other than their alibis. On the other hand, Dr. The no was also right. If the murder killed somebody, la. This line was Oh my! It only gave me. It doesn't let me vote for the doctor, huh? And let's save. Do we have a preference on who to vote for? I don't. I thought they would give me every option, but I guess not. Doctor is displaying all the hints of a murderer, but I don't get to vote for him. That's the trick here. Alright, let me just get to the last game. We shall sit on this cliffhanger for now to torture you. Let's sit on this cliffhanger for now. 1.5 hours for each game. Unfair. Alrighty. Next one.